Hey guys, it's Jan today, the host of the WP Summit, the founder of the WPStore.co, and I'm here today with Dennis Yu, the CTO and co-founder of Blitzmetrics. And Dennis really is a data guy. He ran analytics at Yahoo. He has been featured on some pretty amazing publications like Wall Street Journal, for example. And Dennis will help us educate on Facebook marketing and converting Facebook traffic into leads and sales for your business. Welcome, Dennis.
Welcome, Jan. I love WordPress and I love Jan. It's a good thing.
Good stuff. So, can you give us a little intro of who you are and what you're doing currently?
So I'm just a data guy. I like to share, and as a geek, hopefully this is good for people who really like to geek out and roll up their sleeves. I believe that we can create education for students, and this education can be driven in an apprenticeship-like model where we teach kids. So we have a 21-year-old CEO, and you could see that he's been all over the world. He's an author, all these different places. And if we lift up these young adults and connect them with their passion and give them jobs, and not like a low-wage job, but a job that actually ties with the things that they like to do, then they're going to do the best work for businesses that you would ever see.
Yeah.
And we want to create processes and checklists and dashboards and all that whole structured framework that the education system doesn't do, but also that the workplace needs. So I think about things that small businesses need. They need a website, they need social media, they need, a social app, they need a Twitter, they need all these things. And so when you unite the supply with this demand, you create an amazing ecosystem. So that's what we've been working on. So we are not an agency, but we do work, but we farm it out to other agencies that are qualified, because we're not an agency. We're a learning software company.
Good
We
stuff.
produce a dashboard, we produce content, we are there to help. We put all of our knowledge out there freely, and today we want to share a lot of that knowledge so that you guys can give it a try. The main thing is something we call Facebook for $1 a day.
Awesome. And I really want to dive into that. But first, let's take a step back. What are the prerequisites? What do we need to have in place, being like a small business owner, for example? What do small businesses need to have in place before they can start leveraging Facebook?
So we're talking about how small business owners can generate leads,
Yeah.
right? A lead is someone filling out a form. It could potentially even be them watching a video, clicking on something, demonstrating interest. And in some cases, if you have a low price product, you can drive a direct sale right there. So we have something that we call this 30 item checklist. And there's actually more than 30 items, but there's 30 general items, and each of these items break into other items. And behind them, there's videos and articles and other things like that. But let me just tell you about this briefly, because a lot of people, they see the things that work with some of the brands. We work with some big brands, and we drive some pretty good sales numbers. And they think that it's not possible for small business because they don't have the time, they don't have money, they're not sophisticated, they don't have the teams of people. This 30 item checklist, which you can get now, we're not selling anything, there's no hype. This is just try it out, you'll find it works. The prerequisites are these three things: setup, goals, content. I guess you could say targeting. And setup is the things that you would want to have in place anyway. You want to have your tracking pixels, your Google Analytics, probably run that through Google Tag Manager, right? You want, if you have the Facebook conversion tracking, you want the Google conversion tracking, right? Which is both AdWords and through analytics. And you just want to tie everything together. So we call this the plumbing, the setup, right?
Yeah.
Then goals, well, what is a lead worth? This is usually where these businesses get in trouble, right? The smaller they are, oh, I don't know. You run the ads and then I'll tell you, or run a campaign. And if you're an agency or a freelancer, you need to know this up front. If you're a small business owner, you need to know this up front. $20, $50, and there's a whole math on determining what a lead is worth. And basically it's following the funnel. And we say there's three stages: audience, engagement, conversion. If you know what a conversion's worth, then you can back into what getting an email is worth, right?
Yeah.
Because if 1 in 10 emails buys, and buying's worth $50 and an email's worth $5, that kind of math. And if you have your plumbing set up, then you're able to measure the goals, right?
Yeah.
If you have your analytics and tracking and ad systems and business manager, all that set up, then you can have goals. Against these goals at different points in the funnel, you have content. And this is the second most common reason that businesses fail, especially small ones, is that They don't have the content, or their content is only conversion content as opposed to nurturing content along the way, which is necessary to generate the lead, and then a lead sequence, a sequence of messages like an autoresponder, marketing automation, that kind of thing, which then leads to an eventual sale. Often their thought leadership content is so sales oriented that it's not worth sharing.
Yeah.
And when that's the case, they wonder why their stuff doesn't convert. So you know that you can do targeting, right? On Facebook, you can do crazy targeting, which we'll go into in just a minute. I mean, it works so well. But if you hit the right people, but you don't have amazing content, and we'll define what amazing is later, then it's going to fail. And you can't blame Facebook. It's like buying a brand new Tesla. You don't know how to drive. You crash into the wall and you blame Tesla. No, it's because you didn't know how to drive. And in this case, I think the big failure in the web, I've been doing this almost 20 years, is crappy content. And it's not because Facebook's expensive. It's not because, WordPress has bugs. No, it's straight up, your content sucks in the same way, Tiger Woods can beat you and I in golf. Even if you and I have the nicest clubs and he has crappy rusted clubs, he'll beat us.
Yeah.
Right? So people give lip service to this content. So if you have your goals, content, and targeting together, then you can spend $1 a day and use the techniques that we talk about. And that's a big if. Because if you don't have these 15 items in place, something's going to go wrong for you. Because if you don't have the audiences with remarketing set up, which is, remarketing is people who've been to your site and now you want to show them another message on Google or Facebook. Remember, this has nothing to do with Facebook or with Google or with Twitter or with LinkedIn. It's just using these guys as a delivery system. In the same way that you could say, people who say, I'll just say like one thing just so that, because this happens all the time, so I just want to get this out of the way. People say, oh, my business doesn't work on social media because I'm not very social, or I'm B2B, or I'm some other kind of thing like that. Because I think it's like, oh, social media, people like, doing, like sharing silly pictures and things like that, checking on what their friends are doing. Well, that's as ridiculous as saying, well, I don't want to reach my customers, or my customers, they're not on WordPress, and they're not on MailChimp.
They're not using WordPress, or they're not using Facebook, yeah.
Well, the point is that it's a delivery vehicle.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's not that they're on Facebook that matters. It's not that you're trying to socialize it like with their drinking pictures or their travel and food pictures. No, what you're using it as is a data platform to connect everything else. If they're on the internet and they're in a city where there is Facebook or Google, then this applies to them. Yeah. And they can drive leads. And this especially works for small business. Big businesses, they actually are at a disadvantage because their ability to personalize is a lot lower. It's easier to personalize when you have a narrow niche. So this is really a David and Goliath thing. That's how I view Facebook.
Nice. So how do we get this plumbing in place? What is it that we need to take care of?
Well, there's 3 things you have to do. And you can go through this document and go through all the checklists here. But let me just tell you what it is. And then everyone here, if you want it, you can go to blitzmetrics.com/all, ALL, and there's multiple guides there and go through this. But let me just talk you through conceptually what's going on here.
Yeah, we'll link to it below the video as well.
Yeah. So the idea of plumbing is just like, if you have your plumbing in place, then you can run the water through it and it's not going to leak, right? So here we say, grant us access, but it doesn't matter. Grant yourself access, grant other people that you're working with access. Maybe you find a really bright student, which is what we're all about, train up these bright students, have them do this for you. But either way, you need to have your ads account, different kinds of analytics, tag management. Some of these are optional, right? But if you get these things in place, then when something good happens, you can start to amplify it. So let me show you an example of what that might be, okay? So if you have something that's high authority, that really determines if you are, it doesn't matter. Like I'll just click on one of these things, okay? So this is an article I wrote. I'm a journalist here on Adweek, right? So Adweek is a big marketing site.
Yeah.
And here I wrote a blog post. And guess what? This blog post, it was not on our WordPress. It was on their WordPress. Well, what? Yeah, the ultimate SEO is when you post on other people's sites that have more traffic. Unless you have so much traffic, and I think this audience of small businesses, then I think you're going to get more power posting on other people's sites.
Yeah, it's tough to compete with Adweek, yeah.
So here's Adweek, and I've written an article. And look, if you mouse over this, do you see you see these are all linking to other,
Yeah.
these are other things that we have written, right? So, and then we talk about goals content targeting just like we did. And we're not doing this from an SEO standpoint, right? We're doing it because we want to have content that truly is interesting. In this case here, we're talking about how do you know if someone's going to be successful in Facebook ads? That's a good question. And we're targeting this against the agency so that they can use these techniques to determine, are these small businesses going to just be a real headache for you? You could build them an amazing site. You could do a great campaign. You could give them lots of help and be very attentive and teach them and all this, but these businesses will still fail if you don't have certain things in place, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is what we're sharing. And then we bring in other experts, right? So we take this article, it's on Adweek, and then, as you've probably seen me do before, I will promote that on Facebook.
Yeah.
So if I make a post about it, I could boost that post, but I could just as easily come here and say, I want to send people to this URL that we're looking at. And then, right, because we have all of our plumbing in place, right? We have all of our tracking, our conversion pixels, we have good content, we know what we stand for. And then under here in more demographics, if I'm going too fast for people that haven't done this before, don't worry about it. There's a whole guide around it, okay? I'm going into work and employers. So now I'm targeting people who work at the Wall Street Journal, yeah?
Yeah.
This is not people who read the Wall Street Journal. This is people who work at the Wall Street Journal. And if I've got an article about, whatever kind of vertical about dentists, then I'm going to target, the American Dentist Association. I'm going to target the conferences the dentists go to, right? I'm going to target the media. So who are the influencers? Because I want to influence the influencers. I think about all the people that you would want to hit. Is it in the New York Times? Not people who read the New York Times, people who work at the New York Times. Think about all the people that are the most influential, that if they were to come out and say, Jan is the best and he's sharing his information and blah, 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 where would you want your stuff to show up? If you had a magic wand and you could have your stuff show up in any publication, among any conference organizer, any TV show, you name it, right?
Yeah.
If I want to be on Fox News, food company, all of these guys, right? So this is your magic wand to influence the media. To influence, here, I'll just show you one other example. I want to get people thinking broadly into what's actually possible. I don't want them thinking social media, whatever, that's nonsense, right? Doesn't even mean anything, okay? Okay, so this is one of my random blogs. I have many blogs. This is one I use just to test, okay? So obviously it's WordPress.com and not org and all this, but whatever. This is just one of them, okay? So I have this. This happened just a month ago. I was here in San Francisco and on my way to a meeting at Facebook, right? And I had a problem with Uber. You guys know about Uber.
Yeah.
And they really screwed this thing up. And in fact, I gave it a tag of Uber PR disaster. And I waited a week before I wrote this blog post. And I tried to resolve it with them. But they really made a mistake because this driver was awful. I ended up having to get another Uber. I missed my train. And then it was surging 3 times. It cost me $178. I just made the Facebook meeting in time, And then they said of this problem, of this bad driver, oh, well, they're not Uber employees. We're just an app. And besides, they're just contractors. They're not employees of ours. And we can't do anything about this because we already paid the driver. We're just an app. And this is exactly the problem Uber does not want to have happen.
Yeah.
Because they're unregulated and people are like, oh yeah, it's cheaper, but they don't realize that there's this, there's a good reason why there's government regulation in certain areas, right? So this is the worst thing that can happen to them by saying something like this. And I said, are you sure? And I gave him multiple chances. Are you sure you want to say this, right? Because this is exactly what you should escalate it, because I'm going to write an article and I'm going to use you, Mari, as the representative from Uber, saying that this is Uber's position. Are you sure? And she confirmed multiple times that she was sure, right? So then I put this on some nonsense WordPress site that I have that gets no traffic. Probably like most of yours out there, no traffic. And that's because I didn't want to put it on a high profile site because I wanted to demonstrate that this would work for anybody.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not saying use this just to complain. I mean, I use this one complaint one just as a way to demonstrate how these techniques work, but you can use it to influence anything on anyone. Okay. So here it is, right? I demonstrate what's going on. And here it is multiple times. You're saying, nope, sorry. Uber's just an app. So if you have a problem, it's your fault. If you die, it's your fault, explained the whole thing, very factual, didn't get emotional or anything like this, right? And then I took that article, and this is the magic of Facebook. I went in and I targeted people who work at Uber, people who work at Lyft, which is their big competitor, people who work at the taxi commission, and you know, there's like a governing body of there's a national taxi limousine commission. Oh, I looked at the companies that fund them, right? So all the people in the VC space, I put all of these guys in here, right? And what do you think happens when their competitor sees blood from a mistake that Uber made? And then they can, the worst, it's okay that, you know, Uber drivers mess up, or, you know, like this happens with any kind of driver, but it's how you handle it that really becomes the issue. And then you have like a Comcast or, you know, United Breaks Guitars kind of issue. This is why you do not want, these companies should be smarter than this about social media. Because when these other guys and the government regulators and their funders and everyone who they do not want to know about this find out, then it becomes a big deal. Yeah. And then they're in a very difficult situation of their own causing, because they continue to escalate it, and they allowed us to document it along the way, right? Now you can use, and of course they resolved it. That's what happened there. I tried many times through the regular channel saying, you know, guys, I really think you've made a mistake. I tried 6 times and they gave me a $5 credit.
That's ridiculous.
I said, you guys have really messed up here. Are you really sure? And they kept insisting, yep, this is your fault. We're just an app. If you have a problem with the driver, then, you know, it's the driver's fault. I'm like, okay. I mean, you've told me this 6, 7, 8 times, right?
Yeah.
You've insisted, and I said, you really should escalate this. Just my piece of advice to you, you know? Okay, so if you think about how does this relate to lead gen? If I'm trying to get leads in my, what is your niche, right? What is your area that you're specializing in? Think about who you need to target. Who are those influencers? What are their sites? If you go to Google and you type in the keyword that you want to rank on, who are those other people, right? Who are the folks that have the biggest publications, that are best known, that have the highest influence, and those people become your friends, and those people become folks that you want to target this way. Now, if you have an audience already, like an email list, then you can go into Facebook and you can start to build audiences of these folks, right? Nice. So remember we said here that there's this 30-item checklist, right? And this goes on and on with lots of detail on, you know, how do you click on all these different things, and how do you put the pixels in place, all this, right? But one of these key things here is here in targeting, which is audiences, is you want to upload your email list and match it to Facebook. Because Facebook will match it about 50%, maybe 60%, and then all the people who are in your email list, you'll be able to message on Facebook.
Nice.
You want to put the pixels in place, which are part of the setup, right?
Yeah.
So if you put the custom audience pixel, which is just a JavaScript, then you have automatic retargeting. You're going to run the Google pixel at the same time you run the Facebook pixel, so that when people visit your site, they're then going to also be here so that you can send them a message. So you know the effectiveness of email marketing. A lot of people say, oh, email marketing is great, and a lot of people say email marketing sucks. Well, the people who say it sucks is because their email list is too small.
Or they don't nurture it the right way, yeah.
Yeah, if all the things that apply to email marketing apply here. If you don't build your list to, you know, nurture it and build it up big, some people say, oh, I got, you know, 20 people on my email list, and I want to generate as much sales as, you know, the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. No, it's not possible, right? Their email list is hundreds of thousands. And
yeah.
You know, of course, it helps that you have a winning sports team and this sort of thing. But yeah, you have to build the list up. So the prerequisite to be able to be really successful in Facebook ads is you have to already have an email list. You have to already have some traffic to your website, because Facebook is an amplifier on what's already working. So in this case, I know, Jan, that for your WordPress Summit, you've got a fair amount of traffic, and then you're continuing to nurture them. You're not selling anything. You are acting as like a PR agent, where you're helping you're lifting up other people who you see as being expert in certain areas. And I think everyone here attending this call should know, you know, watching this video should know who are the other people that are really knowledgeable. They're not competitors of yours. They're people that you want to lift up. And when you lift them up and you amplify them, and then you spend $1 a day on them, you help them spend $1 a day, then you have something amazing. So what we've done, just for fun, is we've done a little coding, and we have a WordPress blog generator for all of our students, right? So these
Nice.
students, you can see there's a number of them here. They come in and they get a blog, right? And this is a full WordPress blog, and they get to be able to, they write articles and they talk about stuff, and we'll amplify it. We'll cross-link to one another. You can tell this is a student blog because it's not written our way, and they have
And it's a standard theme,
typos.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So you see these, and they write their blog posts, and often they read our content, and they'll talk about it, and you'll see here they're sharing their stories. Sometimes they just share videos. They prefer to do that. Sometimes, whatever it is. But if you nurture a group of other people that are producing amazing content, then they're almost like third-party contractors of yours, but they do amazing things for you. If you are PR for them, they reciprocate. And I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people don't understand, because they think only at one level deep. They think, oh, just my website. I'm going to put all this content on my website. It's hard enough to do things on my website. Why would I be spending time trying to help other people on their websites? Or this advertising thing, like let's say, okay, here's one, Stu Kent. Okay, they do software for schools where these schools want to learn how to do simulated trading, all this. So they have they have a network with these schools and professors where they're teaching certain topics that relate to digital as these folks are using their software. This is a great way for us, because they have a large list and they have a nice network. We're happy to come in and teach,
Yeah.
right? As you should be. As everyone here in this video, whatever your expertise is, you want to reach out to these other people and share information. You want to interview them. And here's one, expert session, what you need to know about the world of Facebook advertising, So even let's just pretend I didn't have a list. Well, if I don't have a list, then I want to share my information with other people who do have a list.
Yeah.
Of course we have a list. But if you don't have a list, then this is fantastic, because you can co-opt other people's lists. So when you create this stuff, it lives on their site, just like we guest blog on these, or post here on Adweek, or it could be Business to Community or the Wall Street Journal, or we've been New York Times, LA Times, NPR, all of these, Fox, CBS. We've been at all these places, right? And we get to post, and we cross-link, and when we do this, like here's another one. When marketers get confused in implementing retargeting, see this?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the same techniques. What's the most common problem when people set up retargeting? Well, it's that they don't know the difference between the conversion pixel versus the site-wide, custom audience pixel. And then we lift up other people. So this is one of our friends, Franco, and he runs an agency. And we ask him for his feedback, and he comes in and gives us his feedback, right?
Yeah.
And so we lift him up in this article.
That's similar to what I've done with the guest posts for the WP Summit.
Yeah.
For example, I had a guest post on SEMrush, and what I did is I didn't talk about me. I just shared strategies that some of the speakers, in this case it was Rand Fishkin and who was the other one? Oh, that's embarrassing. But it was two speakers who shared their experience on SEO, and I just gave my opinion on those strategies in the guest post.
Yeah. And then when you elevate
exactly,
Fishkin
Alex Moss,
Alex Moss, guess what happens? And then you tweet at them. What are they going to do? They're going to retweet it.
Yeah.
They're going to mention you. They're going to link to you. So now all of a sudden, their list is your list.
Yeah.
And look, you're even wearing the same shirt. So now it's like, oh, it's the same guy, you see? Yeah, it's amazing. And that's the whole thing that people don't understand about social media, is it's not a technique to try to cheat the system. Because I think SEO people have this idea that, if I do this one trick, then it's then the system, I'll magically unlock the algorithm.
That would be too easy.
There's none of that. They think Facebook, and Facebook has algorithms too. But it's the same thing here, where we're saying, all right, how do we? So you've got these amazing people here, right, at your WordPress Summit. How do you make? And you're doing a great job of this. So how do you make them look good? Because when you make them look good, they drive traffic to you, and that's how you build your list into, X amount, and then $10,000 a month, and all this kind of stuff that you're talking about, right? It's actually very easy, because what is it? Warren Buffett said the best way to make $1 million is to start with $1 million or something. I'm paraphrasing, right?
Yeah.
So if you build your business off of other people who have already successfully built their business, then you're not starting from nothing. Most of the small businesses, and we talk to small businesses all the time, their problem is that they're trying to multiply off of a base of nothing, right? You can have 1,000,000 times zero is still zero,
Yeah.
and you're multiplying off of a base of zero. If you look at Facebook or YouTube or any of these sites that became successful, a lot of people think that it was a lone entrepreneur that was struggling all by themselves, and somehow they worked so hard, and then eventually, magically, they became successful. But actually, what happened with any of these major sites, because I've been in Silicon Valley a long time, I'm in Silicon Valley right now, is that they had help from another site. All of them, even Facebook, their money came from gambling. People didn't want to know that, but casino revenue, right? YouTube was a porn network. Wikipedia started off as porn, believe it, and Jimmy Wales is open about that. If you ask or Google it, you'll find out, right? But every site that we have seen, I've been doing this for a long time. Every site that I've seen that's been successful has been successful because they worked with other sites that gave them the traffic. So retargeting is a way that you're able to make that happen, because you interview them, their list becomes your list. And then you have that content, you amplify it again, because if it's good content, you want to amplify it to a similar audience, because then those lists become your list.
Yeah.
And a lot of people at that point say, I don't have time or I don't have money. And we say, okay, you can spend $1 a day. If you target the right audience of just a few hundred people, then $1 a day is super high impact.
So
dollars,
yeah,
right?
so how would that look like? Say, for example, if I took the WP Summit and I have that landing page where people, when they opt in, they get 3 free interviews with Dan Norris and Tim Page and Alex Harris. So it's the WPSummit.com if you just want to check it out. First place, yeah.
Yeah.
So how would I set up a Facebook campaign for that landing page?
So let's see, which landing page? One of these topics?
Yeah, it's actually just a one-pager.
It's just the home here? Okay.
Yeah.
Are these different ones? Oh, it's all here on one thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to have, so your home page is your landing page?
Yeah.
Oh, this one here? Well, let's see. Well, let's look for the scent of influence. So you don't have any singular person, so that if we bring in the audience from any one of these people, or we bring in the audience from Forbes or CNN or whatever,
yeah,
it's not going to immediately stand out. So you lose relevancy. So if you had one where you have like Matt Mullenweg, who founded WordPress, and there's an interview with him, and then you target all the people who make WordPress sites, that would have very, very good alignment.
So it would make sense to have like a landing page for each speaker?
Yeah, so you have 28 of these. Because remember, what you're trying to do is leverage audience to audience.
Yeah.
So if you have one of these speakers, then who's their audience? Well, they're known in certain areas. They have a different footprint. If you have one with me, for example, then who's my audience? Where do I have the most influence? Because that is what you're going to drive. You're going to drive, that audience to where they're going to definitely recognize influence. The fact that you show something like this, 28 world leading WordPress experts, that's great as a generic kind of, catch-all. But remember, we said that Facebook ads, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the social media platform stuff is based on micro targeted PR. So I can target exactly down to the people in your town that are 35 years old, that work at a certain place. Like I can go very, very, very small to tiny audiences, and I want to send those people to personalized, tuned content for them.
Oh, nice.
So eventually you'll have lots and lots of landing pages, and eventually you'll see that landing pages, well, every article is actually a landing page.
Yeah. So
a landing page is just where people come in. So here's an example. So we have an article, right? How the Golden State Warriors got 2 million clicks on a video, drove all these sales, right? And it happens, this is before Steph Curry won the MVP, right? So you can see we've got an article, and it's on Adweek, but we don't have a form at the end to say, okay, fill in the information and then we'll send you more, because this is actually on another site, right? Yeah. But what we did do was we linked to all these other ones that are on our site. Oh, we linked to one on the Wall Street Journal, we linked to one on, whatever. So if they come here, they read through this. If they like that content and they click through, then they can give us their information, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
Alex is the other co-founder, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Just to clarify for other people.
yeah. Alex is our 21-year-old amazing person. Right? See, here, public figure. You'll see, social media examiner, all these different places. And this is what happens when you do stuff live: is that you see people that try to message me while we're doing stuff.
Good
right?
stuff. Yeah.
So, like, look at this. Quoted in Forbes today.
Nice.
Great. Who doesn't want to be quoted in Forbes? And here it is. Why the best SEO firms don't offer blah, blah, blah guarantees. And it's our friend Josh Steimel. Okay, so you see the orange and the light orange? So originally, this thing only had, this is a public figure page. This is not a profile, okay? A lot of people get confused. Oh, look, there's a video of me. This is like the last video you ever see of me because I don't like to do video. So here, right, we had organic reach of 2,000, and then we boosted it for 6,000 more. And that got us a lot of people to like it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that we got a lot of people to like it. It was that we got a lot of high influence people to like this, because we do a lot of work with Infusionsoft and with Marketo and with Facebook and so forth. So we take our custom audiences and we tie them to these posts, and then we send them. Now, what happens if people click through and they go, and they click on this? They go to Forbes. They don't go to our site. They go to Forbes. But then within that Forbes article, we have multiple links that then bring them to our site, right?
Yeah.
Because when you see this in your newsfeed, quoted in Forbes, or here's some interesting article, or here's, whatever, and you go to the Wall Street Journal and you read this, you don't, well, maybe people who are watching this video know that we paid to have that show up, but you're going to read this and think, wow, this is the Wall Street Journal, or wow, this is like Social Times, and oh, this is the guy who runs digital for the Golden State Warriors. Here's what he said. This is an article, blah, 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 right? And then you come in and you click on other stuff that we have. Maybe you click on, because within the ecosystem, you see, Social Fresh or Social Media Examiner or whatever the other high authority sites are, and then you see the content that lives everywhere. So when you're on all these different places, so my advice to you on this video, whoever's watching this video, is who are the other people that you want to work with, so that you can dominate that space, so you can openly share content, openly amplify their expertise, and then you spend $1 a day. You tell each of them to spend $1 a day. The sum of many people spending $1 a day drives a lot of traffic, and not just a lot of traffic, but a lot of qualified traffic to the right people that you want, because we're talking about the best audience that they have. And then your content machine drives you leads. So when you come into your Google Analytics, you can see where this is coming from, and you can see where your conversions are coming from, right? And then you can see what your cost per email, what's your cost per conversion. You can see all this, right? In this case, this is one where we're shopping cart, we're selling T-shirts and things like this, right? So we know what's going on.
That's actually interesting for the 10K a month case study that I'm doing currently. I use WooCommerce to sell like productized WordPress services. That would be pretty similar. Yeah,
and I'll tell you, for all the people who are 20 minutes in and are actually watching this, I'll tell you my one big secret. Checklists. So the content that we have out here, where we're talking about certain things, like you have your 5 SEO tips, or here's other ones. Oh, here's 10 tips on how to do stuff. Guess what? Those are all checklists. All of our articles, with the exception of a few, are really just promoting our checklists. Because a good article, a good how-to article is, oh, here's the 7 things you need to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like this 30-item checklist. This is a checklist, right? It's a sequence of actions, and when you prove that this sequence of actions works through an article, like this one, how the Golden State Warriors, did this and this. Well, they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is how they did it, right? And everyone has their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you have articles that say, hey, I'm Jan, or I interviewed somebody, and here's what they have: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the order of the things you need to do in their checklist. Then they're going to naturally want to get the checklist.
Yeah.
Where do they get the checklist? On your site. right?
Through an
And how are they
opt-in.
going to get the
Yeah.
checklist? You have to fill out the form to get the checklist.
Yeah. Actually, that really ties in well with what Tim Page shared on the WP Summit, which is Lead Pages tested countless different opt-ins, and they even gave away a 1 hour chat with Clay Collins, with their CEO. But the checklist outperformed even that 1 hour by far.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So today we're talking about a checklist for Facebook for $1 a day, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure people, they want this checklist. So where do you go? Blitzmetrics.com/FDD, which is Facebook for $1 a day. So come in and get this checklist on how to do this kind of stuff, right?
Again, link
Why
below
not?
the video.
Yeah. And then if you want the personal branding guide, PBG, right? Same thing. So all the
Nice.
techniques on, how do you develop your content, and how do you interview other people? How do you write your stuff, whatever, right? Even if you don't know how to interview people, here's how do you write, how you do a video interview and turn it into a podcast, and turn the podcast into an article and distribute it. And our back end content marketing team, how do we do this? Where we promote, right? Because once this video's live, we're going to then promote it, right? So it's checklists. So for us, it's checklists. We're even showing you, we write articles. I just showed you. We have articles all over the place. Those articles are there to actually educate. We're not trying to, the thing I hate the most about the internet marketing people is that they say, oh, you need to, like, if you just sign up for our thing, we'll tell you like the 10 but they never actually tell you anything, right? They just go on and on for an hour about how, oh, this is amazing. I made so much money, but they never tell you a single actual technique.
Yeah.
Well, here, share your techniques. Openly share your techniques, like in these articles. Like we have all these kids coming in. They're sharing their techniques. We're sharing real statistics, right? Here it is, videos. We're sharing it. Because we're not trying to promote, spend $39, and we're not doing that, right? We're just giving it out. Go try it, right? And then the checklists. When people download a checklist, that is actually your lead, and that's the thing that people don't understand about lead gen. Because I don't even like the word landing page. Landing page assumes that the fish are coming into a net. And if you're a fish, you recognize what a net looks like.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in there.
Oh no, it's like, get out of here. That's like the telemarketer or, religious people that come knock on your door, like, leave, So rather than say lead gen or conversion or stuff like that, talk about personal branding and thought leadership. Because if you put your expertise out there and say, okay, I've worked very hard. I put this whole thing together for you, right? Look, I put this whole thing together for you. All this, okay? All this stuff, I put it out right here for you. Come get it. I give this to you. Put your name and email, I will give this to you.
Yeah.
And so now my focus, these sites are this is still a landing page, but psychologically, I'm giving you a gift. I am sharing. So the fish comes in and says, oh, this is not a hook. This is food, right? This is good food. This is safe. I'm not going to get killed if I do this thing here, because the focus is on delivering the content.
Yeah.
Right. So when we do this, then the lead gen is amazing, right? Because people come in, they fill this out, they read through our guides. Some people are successful. Most people are confused. Most people, they go through all this and say, oh, this is really good, but man, there's so many things here. And now I just want to hire someone. Can you do this for me? Because I know you guys do this. Oh, here's a checklist. And you have enough items in the checklist. It's like, oh, crap. Yeah, I know these are all good, but I don't have time to go to the checklist. And then they can hire you.
Yeah. And
right?
that's how you nurture the customer, or the lead, basically, and turn it into a customer.
Yeah. And that's the secret there to lead gen. It's you create content that looks so good, that is authoritative, that is first-party experience, that drives people into a checklist, the checklist they download, and then your sequence begins with email, right? You 5 messages in a row, like 3 days apart, whatever it is. And you actually use, done properly, your nurture sequence is there to actually disqualify people, okay? It's not to try to get as many people to convert as possible, because there are some clients that are just terrible. You don't want to touch them no matter what. I mean, if anything, if you're an agency or you're a freelancer and you're listening to this, then you should know that you should fire most of your clients and keep just a couple ones that are really good, and the other ones you get rid of because they're just taking up all your time. and double up and triple up in the really good clients. I promise you that's the case. There's always one or two clients that treat you well, and the other one wastes your time.
Yeah, actually, Michael Port has a really good book about this. It is Book Yourself Solid, and he explains the Red Velvet Rope policy, which just talks about how to find the right clients to work with and which clients just to lay off. Yeah.
And we call those people free tards. You spend a lot of time, talking to people that, oh, I spend an hour on the phone. Just you're giving away free consulting over and over again. But if you have good content out here, then you never have to have any free consulting calls, because anyone who comes to you then becomes inbound. And if they're not sure, then they're not sure like what service you offer. Guess what? You take your checklist and you turn it into a package. And so in this case here, our Facebook implementation, we've turned into a package. Yeah. It's $3,000. We don't discount it. We're raising the price to $10,000, right? And so and even if people have the money, we don't take their money because they have to qualify. They have to have a list, they have to have goals, they have to have content, goals, content, targeting, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole video, goes into, blah, 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 this whole thing.
I'm Alex. Dennis and
See, so it goes on, blah, 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 blah. And so we put our content out there. We put the checklist out there. If they want to buy, they can buy. But even if they want to buy, we don't want to take their money because some clients are just not worth the headache,
Yeah.
So on and on and on, and then you can see that the way people come here is that they see our content, they see the checklist. So I think this is something everybody can do.
So,
right?
so
everybody can produce content and checklists and turn their checklists into packages they sell.
Yeah. So basically, we are already very close to the 30-minute mark for this interview. If not, we're exceeded it already. So I would love to sum it up. And I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know how busy you are. Basically, the process looks like you have all the analytics in place, all the tracking metrics in place on your website. You create amazing content that uplifts someone else so that you can leverage their audience on Facebook, basically. You can promote that content. And then throughout the content, you have places where people can opt into your list or have a call with you or whatever they need to do to get in touch with you, basically, and to qualify as a lead for you.
Exactly. And you use Facebook ads for $1 a day to really influence that funnel.
Great stuff. Is it for Facebook ads, just to clarify, the smaller the audience or the more targeted the audience, the better, right?
Yeah. Because if you're only spending $1, you're talking about audiences that are a few hundred. Any bigger than that, and it's not going to be effective.
Great stuff.
And if you're trying to target an audience that's 50,000 or 100,000, I would question whether you're really targeting as far as you need.
All right.
Because then you're targeting mass consumers, and you're not targeting the influencers.
Yeah.
Right, which is workplace targeting. The media, basically.
Great stuff. So one last question. How do I set up an ad campaign that basically leads to a sales page for like a $20 ebook or something?
So you have 3 parts of the funnel: audience engagement and conversion, and you need to put money against each section. And I would say, put a few dollars against each of these. So of course you're trying to drive some kind of sale, but you can't put all the money only against the conversion part of the bucket, right? So if you put some money to amplify posts that are just general awareness, like here's one where we're talking about goals, content, targeting, right? And you should actually use this. This is the same thing that we do here, right? This is to establish authority. We're not collecting leads. This is actually informational, right?
Yeah.
This is audience building. So you spend $1 a day on each post that you think is worthy of this. Then you spend $1 a day on each post that drives people to your site to get them to fill out a form, right? And then you spend $1 a day on retargeting. Retargeting is when they've come to your site and now you're trying to get them to come back or they didn't buy, and that's what closes the deal. So it should take 3 to 5 touches, right? Because you have audience engagement conversion, and we call this the AEC funnel, and we've got some articles, Alex, here it is, the 3 campaign system for your Facebook funnel, right? We put our stuff out there. It's funny because in presentations or things like this, we just go to different websites and share, right? Because we embody sharing our content instead of like having it all private. So yeah, you have to have you have to put a little effort at each stage in this funnel.
Mm.
So, put $1, have a post, one post in each of these buckets and put $1 a day against each of them. Now you're spending $3 a day.
Yeah.
And then you can track how many people go from your general awareness kind of articles to your site, because you can look inside your Google Analytics. And then you can see in your Google Analytics how many people fill out the form. And then of the people who fill out the form, how many people bought your package. So you can actually see the effectiveness of every piece of content that you have, because you have your plumbing in place with your custom audiences and your Google Analytics and your conversion tracking and your Google Tag Manager and your Google Website Optimizer, and all of those tied together, right?
Yeah. Great stuff. Really, I'm just thinking about all the links that I have to put in place below the video. Great stuff. I really appreciate that you're so open about your strategies.
Thanks, Jan. And I'll leave everybody with one last thing. As you practice these things, you may find that you're confused, or you may find that you want to do some kind of perfect thing. Don't let perfection stop you. Take small steps. And here's one way to make sure you're successful. Document what you do. Take a screenshot as you do it. Write an article, and literally your article should take 5 minutes, because the biggest problem in small biz is they don't create content. Yeah. They get stuck. They're too busy. They're, whatever. But literally spend 5 minutes to produce that piece of content. And if you've documented it and done a good job, you could even give it to me, and I will share it across my network. I might even feature you on one of the sites that we do this on. So if you want to email me, it's just dennis@blitzmetrics.com. And if you've got a screenshot, step-by-step example where you demonstrate how you're following any of the techniques that we talk about, then we will elevate you.
Love it.
I got 40,000 followers to prove it.
Great stuff. Actually, I was just going to ask you how people can get in touch with you. So that's dennis@blitzmetrics.com. Anywhere else you want people to, or you want to point people to after watching this interview?
Sure, they could go to meet me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I can't take any more friend requests on Facebook because the limit's 5,000. But I'm old-fashioned, and if you're a business person, then email is how you generate business and how you communicate. So dennis@blitzmetrics.com is the best way, or you can just Google me. You can see I'm pretty easy to reach.